All right, everybody, welcome to Resolve Office Hours. So excited to have you all here. Excited to have Tabitha Wilson with us from our team. We're going to give everybody just a couple minutes to stream on in here. While we're waiting, if you want to throw in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from. Love to hear kind of where the audience is at. We've got myself based in Boise, Idaho. Tabitha's out on the East Coast in Virginia. So a little coast to coast for Resolve here. Yeah, Haley, Boise, Idaho. So yeah. Oh, Buffalo, New York, fantastic. Cleveland. You know what? I got to say something about Cleveland real quick. Cleveland gets a bad rap. It is awesome. Cleveland's a cool city. I went there for Content Marketing World like 3 or 4 years ago. Great restaurants, awesome downtown area. Went to an Indians game, or the Guardians now, and fantastic. Yeah, Kate knows what's up. All right.
Is it as good as the 30 Rock Cleveland bit made it seem?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Every bit is good.
That's great.
Floyd, right? Yeah, Floyd wasn't joking. All right, cool. Well, we're getting some folks streaming in here. While we are waiting, we'll give it another minute. I do have a fun little poll here. Basically, we just kind of want to see where everyone's coming from and where you're at with your SEO, situation when it comes to content strategy. Do you currently have a content strategy that factors in SEO? The answers are yes, and it's going great. Yes, but we're struggling. No, but I'd like to get started. And the last one is SEO. What is that? Why am I here again? So if you're one of the more confused people, that's fine. And we'll get you set off in the right direction. But yeah, cool. We got some good mixtures of responses. A lot of people who are pretty stoked about their SEO strategies, and then a few people who definitely want to get a little bit of help and get set off in the right direction. So we are excited to do exactly that. All right. Well, we've given it a couple minutes here. I've got a good batch of folks in the webinar. So let's go ahead. I'm going to shut down the poll here in 5 seconds, and we will get cracking. Hey, this is a great mix. Wow. 42%, 33%, 25%. The even spread, all things considered. Okay. So let's go ahead. Tabitha, I'll turn it over to you if you want to go ahead and take the reins here. We're going to be talking about creating content that eats the competition, EEAT. And really the idea behind this is Tabitha is, I'm gonna give you a little bit of an intro, Tabitha, before I just turn it over to you completely. I mentioned this in my LinkedIn post before this. Tabitha joined our team back in July, and just to kind of toot her horn for her, has just taken our content services to a whole nother level for our clients, consistently just creates high performing content that ranks, that gets results for our clients. And all of this, over the last 6 or 7 months now, where it's been core algorithm update after core algorithm update, helpful content, all these things that are going on, her content continues to thrive in that environment. So thought it'd be great for her to share her insights and best practices with you all today.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And Andrew, thank you for hyping me up here. Before I get properly started, I do want to just make a quick disclaimer. My 4-year-old is homesick today. So if you see a small child in the background, that is why. So yeah, creating content that EEATs eats the competition. This was kind of born of something that we do at Resolve every month called Thursday Learns Day. And I did a small internal presentation for the team that was literally titled Being Better Than the Competition. Obviously, I was being cheeky there, but that's what I like to do when I make content. And I've found some pretty good ways to do it. So first, who am I and why am I allowed to talk about this stuff? So I have been at Resolve, like Michael said, for just over 6 months now. And I've worked in SEO since 2017. I started as a freelance content writer, as a lot of people in SEO do. And I moved into full-time SEO work 2 years ago. While I was in college, I did an internship with an online magazine called The Tab about SEO and just viral content marketing. And it just set me on a really great career path. Since then, I've done a lot of different kinds of SEO work. I have done link building, I've done on-site content, and I've done some other like related SEO work as well. But lately, I have been specializing in content creation and keyword-focused content strategy, especially here at Resolve, which is, I think, my wheelhouse and what I enjoy doing the best. And so, why does Tabitha, the largest content writer, simply not eat the other content writers? This is basically a meme that I had in that first being better than the competition presentation, and I couldn't take it out because I'm a big Futurama fan. So, just to prove that I know what I'm talking about, I want to show you some of the metrics for pieces that I have written since coming to Resolve, one of which, both of which are from Arrow Sewing. They are one of our clients that we have had on for a pretty long time, and they have seen probably some of the most growth that we've had from anyone. So, for example, I wrote a blog post for Arrow Sewing called "Can You Bring Sewing Needles on an Airplane?" Pretty straightforward question, one that had a fair amount of search volume. And since it was published on December 14th, it has started bringing in over 800 organic traffic each month. That's not all. It has also been chosen as a featured snippet when you search the phrase, "Can you bring sewing needles on a plane?" Different variations of the phrase don't always bring up this featured snippet, like, "Can you bring a sewing needle on an airplane?" brings up a different one. But all the same, being chosen for a featured snippet at all is pretty good. And then one of my best performing pieces that I've done for Arrow Sewing was published on November 28th, and it is an article about the best sewing machine for beginners. The first part of the article is dedicated to why you should learn sewing, what you should know, and general information. And then that follows into a more specific list of what sewing machine is best for you depending on your needs. So for example, best sewing machine if you want to learn to quilt, best sewing machine if you are on a budget, best sewing machine for XYZ other things. And as you can see, it now brings in, since its publication on November 28th, it brings in over 3,000 monthly traffic. And it ranks in the top 3 for over 70 unique keyword phrases related to the best sewing machine for beginners. Pretty crazy. And that's not all, because it has seen significant success on Google Discover as well. If you have a Google Pixel or an Android phone, you can scroll through to recommended news articles, or when you open up the Chrome app, it'll show the same thing. So as you can see, towards the end of December, this article was chosen for Google Discover and had a really good amount of clicks to impressions as well. And then this is the data for the Arrow Sewing website since we've been publishing content with them from September. So the numbers speak for themselves. Good content and well-written content is going to bring better traffic to your site if it is the right kind of content. So that's what we'll keep talking about here. So what does EEAT mean? And why do we have 2 E's, and why is it important? The first E is experience. Have you witnessed, researched, or worked with the thing that you are talking about? For example, have you actually looked at sewing machines? Do you know things about sewing machines for this article? E, expertise. Do you know what you're talking about? Do you not just know what a sewing machine is and how to use it, but do you know how to recommend the best ones to new people? Authority. Do others believe you know what you're talking about? And that one, that can be more site level than content level, but we'll get into that a little later. And then finally, trust. Does your audience believe the things that you say? Have you shown your audience in the past that you are a trustworthy source of information? Again, site level, but we'll keep talking about that. So I do want to make an important clarification as we keep talking about EEAT. It is not a ranking factor. The EEAT factors of your content do not directly lead to a higher position in the SERP. But what it is how Google search quality raters fine-tune their search algorithm. So raters help to categorize and rate example Google searches in order to inform Google's strategy when further developing the algorithm. They have human raters who look through the content and then they score it because of EEAT. These raters are given to them as a guideline when rating content so that there is a consistent rating system in place. So why the extra E? Until recently, the acronym was just EAT, expertise, authority, and trust. But in December 2022, Google added the extra E. Most discussions of the extra E experience center around product reviews. So that if you have an article that says the 10 best stand mixers of 2024, you will be ranked higher or rated higher if you show that you have used all of these different stand mixers of 2024. But it does apply for all kinds of content writing, not just those product reviews. It also places more focus on who wrote the article rather than the site it was posted on. And this is how the experience part of EEAT can differ from especially the A and the T. So, for example, I don't know how to sew. I have not sewn since I tried it when I was like a kid, and I don't do it. But I am a lifelong crafter, and my grandmother-in-law has been a seamstress for her entire life. So when I was writing the best sewing machines for beginners article, I not only drew from my own experience as a crafter, but learned hers as well. I called her and I said, what kind of sewing machines would you recommend? And what are some different kinds of sewing machines that somebody learning to sew might need? And I asked, what did you want to know when you were learning to sew? Which was a little different because she's been sewing for 60 years at this point. But still, I was able to draw on that experience to guide my article through. In addition, even though I'm not a sewist and I can't work a sewing machine, I am still a crafter. And so I know the mindset that crafters are in when they start to look up their craft. I know what kind of questions will show up. I know enough about sewing to research other rabbit holes and learn other follow-up questions that may not be answered in other types of articles like this. And I was able to use my experience as a crafter to apply to this, even though it's not my specific craft. For the record, I knit and crochet. So, writing with EEAT in mind. So that's awesome, honey. So you can, as you're writing, you should have EEAT in mind from the moment that you're ideating your topics, the moment that you're putting together your headers, and it's not just something that you should edit your pieces with. So I wanted to start with this quote from Lee Auden from Top Rank Marketing, and content is the reason search began in the first place. People wanted to find good answers to their questions. People wanted to learn. People wanted to find good sources for things. And so content being created on the internet is the entire reason that search has evolved this way. I think that sometimes as content writers and content creators, we get wrapped up in meeting algorithmic needs and meeting, trying to just game the algorithm and get something that's going to get to, position 1 on page 1 of the SERPs. But that can happen more organically if you focus on actually meeting a need for a searcher. And that, in the end, is what EEAT is about, demonstrating value and being able to meet search needs. So before you even write a word, research the competition. Google all of the keywords and keyword phrases that you want to hit and see what kind of content is already there. If you have SEMrush or Ahrefs, search up those phrases in there as well so that you can see the content that gets ranked and that gets clicked on as well. And I would suggest that you do a couple different variations of your keyword phrase. So for example, can I bring sewing needles on a plane? I would search, can I bring sewing needles on a plane? Can you bring sewing needles on an airplane? Can I bring a sewing needle on a plane? Can you bring sewing needles on planes? Very different variations of the phrase because you may see different content depending on what you search. And then once you find a good list of competitor content, learn their weaknesses. We are going to go Machiavelli on these competitors here. Look at their content with a really critical eye. And I mean, be mean. Look at their content and say, you should have done this better, and I'm going to do it instead. What information gaps are there? What questions do they allude to but not source? And what questions do they half answer but not answer the follow-up questions from it? What can be improved about your competitor's article? This can, of course, vary on your niche, especially if you are writing in, say, the healthcare niche. If you're in the healthcare niche, then you're probably going up against WebMD, Mayo Clinic, things like that. And it's, unless you are highly, highly authoritative, it's unlikely that you'll necessarily rank against them. But it is still worth trying and finding the things that they don't answer and possibly revolving your content around those smaller and more specific questions. See, there's a question. Yep. All right. And the very last thing to do before you write content is to think like a searcher. So after you've figured out what your topic is going to be and what you are going to do better than the competition, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is looking for this content and happens upon it organically. One moment, honey. What kind of searches will bring people to your content? If you were searching that, what information would you need right then? And that should also guide how you organize your article, especially looking for, say, a featured snippet. So if you're writing, can I bring sewing needles on an airplane? That is the very first thing that you answer in your article, and then you go into all of the follow-up questions afterwards, and you try to strive to answer questions that other articles answering it don't do. Give me just one.
Well, while Tabitha's helping out there, I'll just jump in real quick. So I mentioned this in the chat, we are going to be workshopping sites and doing a Q&A. So throw your questions into the Q&A section. If you want us to look at your website, throw your website in the chat. We definitely want to be able to answer your questions and make this very interactive on the second half of the presentation. So just wanted to give that shout out one last time. Again, throw your questions in the Q&A and anything else that you want us to look at in the chat. Tabitha, are you good to jump back in? Oh, 1 more minute. All right. But yeah, so far, this has been great stuff. What I really love about like what she said a minute ago was, a lot of people, and this is something that Google's been attacking, they've straight up talked about, is replay available? Yes. Yeah, John Cox, that's a great shout out. At Resolve, we're really big on kind of being able to work remote and have a good work-life balance. So definitely love that Tabitha gets to hang out with her fam and help her boy out while he's sick.
Yeah.
But just real quick before Tabitha jumps back in, replay will be available, yes. And then just to kind of chime in one more thing. Again, Google's been so big on content that is created for search. Now, of course, we're going to create content that's for search. Like we want to get organic search traffic. We're going to optimize our content. But Tabitha did a really good job of kind of distinguishing and talking about how there needs to be that focus on the user intent, on answering their questions and actually providing them with the information that they're looking for. And that's how I always distinguish between like, yes, I'm creating content for search, but really making sure that at the heart of that content for search, you are helping your users and focusing on them. So great job so far, Tabitha. Are you good to jump back in?
I am. Thank you so much for taking over there. I forgot I
Fantastic.
had a time limit on his tablet today and had to turn that off. So, and thank you, John. I really appreciate that too. You know how it goes. But yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, SEO is a human endeavor. Everything about SEO focuses back on understanding how humans use Google. And so if you write your content understanding that it will be read by humans using Google, then you're more likely to succeed than if you write content for Google itself. So here are some more specific questions to ask about competitor content while you're figuring out how to be better than them. Number 1, what do they explain well? What is good about their article? And then, of course, don't plagiarize, model your article after that. So if the order of their information is great and is used for a featured snippet, then, emulate that with your article as well. If they do a really great job of explaining one nitty-gritty detail, but they kind of gloss over other things, look at how they do that explanation well. And then second, what do they not explain well, or what do they not explain at all? For example, if you go into an article about the best sewing machines and they just have a list of sewing machines and they say, this is the Singer XYZ. This one is the Brother 123. This one is the third sewing machine brand ABC. And you're like, okay, but why are they good? What's good about them? So just be very critical of other people's content because it'll help you avoid making those same mistakes in your own. And then finally, what questions do you have at the end of the article? What information do you need to know after learning the information in the article? And can you weave that into your piece of content that will compete with this? Or could you possibly spin it off into its own content later on? For example, can you bring sewing needles on an airplane? As you go down, you may find an article that doesn't mention whether or not you can bring, say, knitting and crochet needles on an airplane. So in our article, it says, can you bring sewing needles on an airplane? Yes, as long as TSA says so. Can you bring crochet needles? Yes, as long as TSA says so. So by including all of that information in our article, we're also able to hit more search volume and answer people's follow-up questions on page instead of them having to go back to Google and search it again. All right, use these questions to be better than the competition. At the end of the day, that is part of what you want to do while you're making content is you want to find what other people are doing and do it better. And I love Star Wars, so I had to include another meme there. As a highly competitive person, this is something I shouldn't tell myself, but I do anyway. So here's how I use the method for arrow sewing specifically to get those ranking pieces. The first is I researched the competition. I noticed that when I searched up best sewing machine for beginners or any other variations of that phrase, most of the high ranking articles had additional information before their listicles, and lower ranking articles did not. The anatomy of a lower ranking article was basically header 1. Here are the best sewing machines, a quick topic paragraph, and then 5 H2s naming the sewing machines, and then a conclusion. And those were fine, but they really didn't get above like number 10 at the highest. All of the higher ranking pieces for sewing machines, they had their anatomy was like, here's the introduction and the header, here's a couple paragraphs about why you should get into sewing, what to look for in a sewing machine, and certain things to make or try when you're making your first projects. So I modeled our piece after that with additional information at the beginning before we went into the list itself, and then learned their weaknesses. After reading the competitor pieces, what questions did I still have? What was missing? One specific one that I had in the best sewing machine for beginners article was, what if you want to learn to sew to quilt? Most of these best sewing machine articles I found were largely aimed at people who wanted to do garment sewing or other forms of sewing and not quilting. But if you're quilting, you need an entirely different setup. You need a whole different table on your sewing machine. I won't go into the details. That's not what we're here for, but it's different. It has to be different. And I was able to answer that question in a way that I didn't see many other ranking articles do as well. Think like a searcher. While writing the article, I put myself in the mindset of someone who is ready to purchase a sewing machine, but doesn't know what they want yet. If we're talking marketing funnel, I was thinking, mid funnel to almost lower, but not quite. This is also why I chose different types of sewing machines, like best sewing machine for beginner quilters, best sewing machine if you're on a budget, best compact sewing machine, best digital sewing machine, instead of just aiming it at beginners as a whole, because beginner sewists are also not a monolith. You may have somebody who is buying their very first sewing machine ever looking at that article, but you also might have somebody who has, say, their grandmother's old sewing machine, but they're looking to upgrade to something newer. And I wanted to make sure that we had value for the multiple different types of people who would be making this search and, intending to make a purchase. And then finally, infuse your client goals, or at least that's what I do since I'm writing for other clients, not my own business. For you, this is infuse them into your own goals. Arrow Selling sells furniture to hold sewing machines, but not the machines themselves. They sell sewing tables, cabinets, fabric storage, and ergonomic sewing chairs. But they don't sell sewing machines, which is good because we weren't, linking to competitors when we were, talking about the best sewing machines, but we were able to organically link to their own products to say, if you buy this large quilting machine, you will likely need a larger sewing table to set up your workspace. And it fit organically in there. And it didn't feel like I was infusing a sales pitch. It was a natural pairing. If you're buying your first sewing machine, you may not have a sewing workspace. You may think, I can set this up at my dining table. And I don't sew, but I know that you can't. So Arrow Sewing comes in to help with some fresh, affordable, and stylish sewing furniture. So I found ways to organically recommend Arrow Sewing's furniture while also informing the audience of the best sewing machines. If the whole article had been an ad for Arrow Sewing, then I don't think it would be ranking as well, and I don't think that it would have been as informative as it could have been. It is still, of course, a marketing piece, and it is working for that, but at its core, it is an informational piece for the searchers. A lot of content that I see matches keywords and answers questions on those surface level, but it doesn't explain why the content matters to a reader. And that is part of why it's important for me to include in this example, multiple sewing machines, to include, say, a lot of information about why you should begin to sew, to include a few beginner patterns for people to try. Because I know that the reason they are searching this and the reason that this content matters to them is that it's educational and it could start them on a new hobby. And as a hobbyist, I mean, I would love to introduce somebody to sewing. So it matters because I'm sorry, I lost my sentence there. Being able to explain why it matters within your content also leads to just better information and better value for the reader. I want another meme. If any of you are parents and have seen Bluey, this guy is probably the bane of your existence. But I think about him every time I'm writing something in my content and it starts to fall a little flat. I look at my paragraph, I look at my writing, and I put on my best Bandit Healer's unicorn's voice and say, and why should I care? Because why should you care? While you're looking at your content and you're evaluating it for EEAT, you should be asking yourself, why does this matter to a searcher? Why does this matter to somebody who would organically click on this article from Google search? Why does it matter? So the last step is to read like a rater. Once you've put together your content, you've written it, and you're on the editing stages, give it a more holistic read. You copy edit it, make sure the grammar's fine, check it in Grammarly, that's all great. But what if you're rating it for value? Put yourself in the mindset of a Google quality rater and read through your content with EEAT in mind. So for experience, does this sound like it was written by somebody with firsthand experience in the subject matter? Does it sound like it's written by somebody who has worked with this before? Does it sound like somebody who is familiar with this topic and the follow-up questions that it could come from? And because this can come from an author level, if you have like a guest author on your site, is there a portfolio that you can link to with them? Is there any other sort of like ethos you can add? If it is just published under your own site's name, that's less of a consideration, but still. And then expertise. Does this sound, oh, I saw my meme too early, I can't do that. Does this sound like it was written by someone who understands the subject matter? Does this sound like somebody who could casually just explain this to you at a bar? I used to work as a bartender, and if you can explain something pretty technical to a casual acquaintance in a almost explain like I'm five way, then you sound like you have expertise. I always try to tone down my language when I'm explaining like high concept things in my articles to show like, even if I don't already know things about whatever the subject is, I don't name any of our clients specifically besides Arrow, but even if I don't have expertise in this thing, I find ways to simplify it so that it sounds like I do, and I learn as much about it as I can to come close to being an expert. And then authority. Would a reader believe that my website has reputable information about this subject? So for Arrow Sewing, you can absolutely look at the Arrow Sewing site and you believe that they're an authority in sewing and sewing paraphernalia. You can look at their website, you can look at their branding, you can look at their past content, and you can trust that anybody writing for that site is qualified to recommend sewing machines and sewing patterns. And then finally, trust. Do you trust what the author has to say about this subject? Again, this can come from site level and from like brand level, but it can come from the content level as well. You want to position yourself as knowledgeable, you want to write with a tone that is trustworthy, and you want to be silly and you can joke, but you still want to position yourself as somebody who knows what they're talking about. What I find most often is that trust follows naturally from the EEA. As long as your piece sounds like you have experience, it sounds like you have expertise, and your website is authoritative, people are going to trust what you say. Sadly, trust is kind of the one that you have the least control over sometimes, but you can absolutely influence and write with it in mind. So thank you for listening. Here's the last meme that I previewed a couple times. It's my favorite thing that ClickHole has ever created, and every time I write anything for a healthcare company, I think of it, and it makes me laugh. So thank you all for listening to my rambling on EEAT, and I'm happy to answer any questions and just chat a bit.
Fantastic. Tabitha, amazing job. That was an awesome presentation. Always cool to hear folks here, Resolve share their insights and what they're learning in the projects that we work on here for our clients. So yeah, go ahead. Tabitha's here to answer your questions. If you want to throw your questions into the chat or the Q&A, we did just get a question or a website from Kate. So we can pull that one up real quick and take a look. So Kate has a website called authenticfilms.net. So make sure I'm sharing my whole screen. I am. Okay. And so it looks like she does video production in Cleveland. So the way I found that out is because it says it right here. Authentic Films is a production company located in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, one of the things that I always want to think about when it comes to local SEO, ranking for terms in your area, is there's three main aspects that you want to make sure that you're telling Google. And it's quite simply, it's who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And so you want to make sure that this is clearly mentioned and put into key areas of your page, and that it's clear on your site. So one of the things for sure up here, like your title tag, definitely want to spruce that up a little bit. Again, tell them what you do and where you do it in your title tag. There's no content or text on the homepage currently. So again, I know you've mentioned you haven't really done much with the site yet, but this is all just stuff that you kind of take notes on and roll out and do. Definitely get a good amount of text. This is like your, main landing page that people are going to come to see you and really try to get a high level essence of who you are and what your brand is about. So again, with your H1 tag, who you are, what you do, where you do it, have some text that explains what you do, what makes you different, why you're special. The last thing is, if you do have a local address or office, absolutely make sure you have your name, address, phone number in the footer of your site. You want to make sure that Google knows where you are at and that they can confirm that you're in the area that you say you are. So that would be definitely something I want to do with the homepage. And then when it comes to the rest of your site, again, to what Tabitha was talking about earlier, you want to demonstrate to Google that you have experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Now, when it comes to expertise and experience, like, cool, you've got some examples of the work that you've done. This is kind of a good example here showing like, hey, we do have experience, we do this. But in terms of demonstrating authoritativeness, right? That's where having a lot of blog content is going to help you out by showing Google, hey, not only are we a company that does this, we can talk about this and we can explain it to people. Tabitha kind of alluded to this quote, but it is such a good quote. It's the if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So having that type of content where you're explaining exactly what it is you're doing, how it works, that'll really help Google to know that you're an expert in your area and that you're a good result to send their users to. So those are a few little feedback points that we have. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that one there, but hopefully that was helpful for you. All right, we've got a question from Jennifer Williams. With Google's larger emphasis on entities, how important will exact keywords and keyword phrases become? I continue to really think about like when it comes to exact keywords and keyword phrases, I think they're going to continue to be important. But again, demonstrating overall that you have topical authority and knowledge on a subject or topic is going to be huge as well. The days of just, like what Tabitha was saying, throwing out a article that has the keyword in the title tag, the H1 tag, and a couple of the header 2 tags, I think those days are long gone. I mean, not long gone. You can still do it, but for example, one thing I was very upset about, Tabitha, I'm still waiting for Google to catch up on this. You think about like who has really authority, expertise, trustworthiness on things that are related to sewing machines. I get why this site's ranked #1, but why is Forbes, other than the fact that they're just hugely authoritative, why does Forbes rank above, our client #3 for best sewing machine for beginners? Again, it's just such a weak example of, Google just like giving a huge publisher love because they're, authoritative rather than a brand that's actually an expert on the topic.
I wonder if it's like an experience thing too, because I think I remember looking at that one and it says like we tested all of them and there was a links talking about it as well. Maybe that's part of why. It's just the more emphasis on experience.
Yeah. No, seriously. So again, at Andrew's point, like I do think that's kind of what Google's trying to get better at sniffing out. Again, you talk about content made for search. Why Forbes would write about sewing machines other than just to rank for it and get traffic, it's like it's debatable for sure. So yeah, great question there. Again, I think that establishing your brand as a topical authority from an NT perspective is pretty crucial and critical going forward in search. Again, it's not just going to be having a page. It's about demonstrating those other areas of EAT. Let's see, any other questions that we've got from the audience here that you want to throw out there? Or any other websites you guys want us to look at, go ahead and throw those in the chat. While we're waiting here, I'll go ahead and throw up an extra poll that we have. Let me do this here. Oh, cool. Awesome, Jennifer. She sent us a nice little article about that. Real quick, we are doing a little offer for anyone attending the webinar today. If you are wanting to get started on your blog strategy, we create awesome packages of blog articles that are kind of focused on a certain topic or keyword theme and kind of help you build out a pillar around those. If you're interested in our offer, we're going to give away a free blog post if you purchase 5. So we got yes, we got no, we got maybe, send me some more information. And would love to chat with y'all about that. I probably should have just made the only answers maybe or no, because I don't think anybody's too antsy to say, yes, I'm going to buy this. But perfect. All right. So yeah, great article here. If you want to grab that in the chat by Jennifer, housefresh.com, David versus Digital Goliaths. Well, cool. If there's no other questions today or nothing else that y'all want to look at, again, we're here to be your resource. We can maybe close up shop early today, but I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for jumping in. I thought this was an amazing presentation. Tabitha, a lot of people are asking to get your slide deck from you. They love the look there. So we'll make sure to do that. Oh, Linda asked, could you compare some keyword research tools? Yes, let's do it. I would love to do that. Hey, we got some content. Let's go. So a few different tools that I really love that I use all the time with keyword research. I use Ahrefs and I use SEMrush. Now, they both have their advantages. One of the things I really love about SEMrush that works best for me when it comes to just the format of it is creating pivot tables with data that I export from it. I know I can do it with Ahrefs. I just haven't messed with it enough to like really get good at it. But some of the cool things I like with this tool, we'll go to view details here. The keyword magic tool is it's a really solid tool if you want to find some keyword opportunities. So really quick, I'm going to export some data here so I can show you this process here in a minute because I think it's really cool. I actually talked a lot about it in the last webinar that we did. But keyword magic tool is awesome where if you were maybe wanting to rank for a specific keyword theme or topic, you can put that theme in here. So let's say I want to rank for sewing for beginners. Search. It'll then start to show you all of the keywords that are related to that. So best sewing machines for beginners, sewing patterns for beginners, sewing classes, right? You can start to see what all those main themes are for the keyword as well. You can see what the intent behind that article is, right? If you want to rank for the keyword sewing patterns for beginners, but the page that you have is a page that sells sewing patterns, you probably won't be able to rank for it because the intent for that is not commercial, it's informational. So you probably need to create a blog article that is informational. Now, of course, my webpage freezes up here. Now, the other thing that has that's really helpful is the keyword difficulty. So let's say you are a very small authority site and you want to rank for sewing machine for beginners. That's a 66 keyword difficulty. That might be more difficult. Instead, maybe you should target sewing patterns for beginners. It's going to be lower. Again, these are estimates, so always look through the individual results to see what are the sites that are ranking if you can get yourself in realistically into position. The other thing I love is the questions button. You can click questions, and it'll show you what the actual questions are that are getting asked. So how to sew for beginners, how to sew by hand, how to sew a dress. The cool thing with questions that I love to do is in your article, if you use your question as an H2 or an H3, and then answer the question with the text below it, that's a really good way to show Google questions being asked, I'm answering it directly. So I love that. All right, let's try this one more time. See if I can get this to export properly and not freeze on us. Tabitha, do you have anything you wanted to add to that? Any additional items there?
No, I was gonna say the thing about using the questions for H2s. Do you have, I think it was in beta when I had used SEMrush last time, because I'll admit I usually use Ahrefs. But do you have the magic keyword suggester tool that has it uses AI to generate a bunch of other ones? I'm not describing this well.
I don't know if I use that very often. Maybe I just use the keyword magic tool, and that kind of gets me where I want to go most of the time.
I've tried it with SEMrush, and it does about the same thing as the keyword magic tool, but sometimes it's really good for coming up with like long tail keywords that don't have a ton of like traffic, but they have a lot of relevance. Again, I think it was something they were beta testing, so it may not be on the site anymore, but I used it a couple times for outlines and really liked it.
Got it. Very cool. So this is a process that I love to do with exported SEMrush data. Basically, what we're doing here is we're trying to get a view of what are the pages on my site, or even like what I love to do this is for competitor research on a competitor's site that are driving the most traffic. So to do this, I actually have a video that I've made before, a Loom, where I walk through how to build these. So if you're interested in it, again, just ping me, let me know. I'll get that over to you. But you're going to turn this into a pivot table. We're going to go URL. We're going to go keyword. And then you're going to put search volume, position, and traffic. And now what this does is we're basically telling our sheet here that we want each page of the website, and then we want all of the keywords that rank on that page underneath it. We're going to collapse. We're going to traffic. So right away, what we're seeing here is these are the top traffic driving pages on the website. And so if you have a competitor, let's say, and you want to know what's their best performing blog content, you can put together one of these sheets with that data, and then you can see what are the keyword pages and keywords that are driving the most traffic for them, and how can I capture this? Dang, that article ranks #2 for sewing machine. That Tabitha, dang girl, that's incredible. So anyway, yeah, fun surprises you find out sometimes. Gosh, all right, well, cool. So yeah, if you want to know more about that process, let me know. I can send you some information about it. Linda, let me know if that helped you out there. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of insights on, how I like to use. Oh, Tab, did you have something else you wanted to add to that, or you're good? Okay. I hope
I'm getting rid of the notifications. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. You're good. Very cool. Any other, let me know if there's any other questions here. Hopefully we provide y'all with some good value today, some helpful information. I don't want to be surprised again. So I will, before I say we're going to shut down, I want to give everyone one more minute to throw in your questions. But thanks so much. Tab, did you have anything that you wanted to add to the presentation today?
No, just thanks everybody for tuning in.
I don't know if there's anything else you could add. I feel like you just, you just smashed it. So you did the content thing, you did the mom thing, you just, multiple, all fronts, you covered it. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for hopping in today and spending some time with us. How long does a site, oh my gosh, one more question from Linda. And it is the Tootsie Pop question of SEO that is the ultimate question. How long does it take a new website to rank? Linda, it can take 4 days. It can take 4 years. It can take anything in between. A lot of the time, it's the classic SEO answer of it depends. So if you've got a super, let's say super niche website, you're able to create content that is answering long tail keywords that are not very competitive, but you're answering them very well with great quality content. I've seen websites start to drive traffic and rank within, a month or two. On the other hand, let's say you're like, I want to rank for car insurance, right? you may never rank for that keyword. It is so competitive and it's going to take so long. So yeah, I mean, we've had content that we've published for clients that within a day or two of publishing it, it's already ranking, it's already driving clicks, and it's taking off. We've had other clients where it takes 3 to 6 months to really start to see movement and growth on the content that we create. So it's a little different. Andrew put in a note here. He said, be careful with the new site and not posting to scale the site. The new update is being super critical of sites posting to scale. Yeah. So if you are just like cranking out, and this was something that a lot of like SEO influencers that are kind of more on the gray black hat side of things were bragging about over the last years, like, I watch me do an SEO heist where I, create 1,000 articles with AI and rank overnight. And then it's like literally over the last like 5 months, as all these updates are coming out, you just see all their sites just tanking and going down. So yeah, Linda, exactly it. Like build out that core content that matters to your users. Take the time to write stuff that will matter to them, that will solve problems for them. If you do that, then you're going to find yourself on the right side of Google, the algorithms, and give yourself the best possible chance to rank. The other thing to keep in mind is that you are probably going to need to find ways to earn some backlinks to your website. There is an authority aspect to content, and a lot of that comes down to getting quality backlinks to your website. So definitely look for those kinds of opportunities as well. If you need help, you can always hire an agency like us, but definitely check that out. Linda, do you have any other follow-up questions on that? Oh, great. We got the hard eyes. That's all we wanted. All right, cool. Well, if there's nothing else, then again, thank you all so much for joining office hours. I try to do these monthly. I'll try to get another one. Before we jump off, let me know if there's any topics that you want to see next month for office hours. Go ahead and throw those in the chat. If there's anything that you'd want us to review or discuss. And as always, I try to find an expert on the topic to jump in and help out with it. So go ahead and throw it in the chat if there's any topics you want to hear about next month on office hours. Otherwise, thank you all so much for checking this out. We had a blast. Tabitha.
Yeah,
Wonderful
thank you,
stuff.
everybody.
Love
My
it.
best. I'm glad y'all like the memes.
Yep, that's what we're here for. Memes and gifts. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all later. Yes, it is recorded, Kim. I will send you an email after the presentation. Just shoot me a note, and I'll get you a link to the YouTube. Linda, thanks again. Kim, thank you. All right. See you later, everybody.
Bye, everyone.